Chapter 1. Redstone. Pawns move. Redstone Penitentiary smelled of rust and bleach, the metallic tang clinging to every surface like an invisible film. Even in the dead hours of the night, the prison never truly slept. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Guards shuffled down echoing corridors. Somewhere in the north wing, a convict coughed, and the sound rang out like a warning bell. Inside cell 313, Artem Archie Gromov sat at the narrow desk bolted to the wall. The surface was covered with scratches and graffiti carved by generations of restless hands, but Archie had cleared a square patch and turned it into his board. He had spent weeks etching a grid of 64 squares with a stolen screw. His pieces were bits of bread, shaped and dried into pawns, rooks, bishops. A queen's crown was nothing more than a scrap of paper, folded upright, but to Archie it was regal enough. Across from him, Damir Hajiev leaned against the bunk frame, arms crossed. The younger man's build was heavier, shoulders broad and neck thick like a fighter. He had grown up fighting in alleys and gyms, fists hardened into blunt weapons. His patience, however, was fragile. "You think we got time for games?" Damir muttered, eyes flicking toward the corridor where footsteps echoed faintly. "The boiler's gonna pop any second." Archie slid a pawn forward with deliberate calm. "That is why we play. In the calm before chaos, you can see everything clearly." Damir groaned, dragged his palm across his buzzed scalp, then flicked a knight across the scratched surface. "You and your damn symbols. What's this piece supposed to mean?" "Freedom." Archie's smile was faint but sharp. "The knight moves in ways no one expects. Leaps over walls. Breaks rules others are bound to." He lifted his eyes. "Tonight, you are the knight." The fluorescent light above them flickered, buzzed, and then steadied again. Damir straightened. He knew that flicker. It was their signal. At 2:17 a.m., the south boiler room shuddered. A rag jammed in a valve, a wire bridging a safety switch, months of patient sabotage now ignited. The rupture shook the prison like a cannon blast. Steam roared, alarms shrieked, and the cell block lights cut out. Red emergency sirens spun across the walls, painting everything in frantic crimson. Archie rose calmly, brushing crumbs from his board into his pocket. "It begins." Damir cracked his knuckles. Finally. Chaos surged. Guards shouted. Radios barked orders. Doors rattled in their frames. But Archie and Damir moved with the precision of ghosts. They slipped through their open cell door before the secondary locks sealed. Inmates screamed and pounded on bars, begging for release. Archie ignored them. He wasn't here to lead a riot. He was here to execute a performance. A guard staggered through the smoke. Damir lunged, striking him once across the jaw. The man crumpled. Archie crouched, plucked the keycard from the guard's belt, and wiped the blood from its edge. "Thank you for your service," he murmured, sliding it into his pocket. They wound through service tunnels reeking of mold and wet stone. Archie had memorized every blind camera, every crooked door. He had studied the prison like a chessboard, and now he moved piece by piece toward the final square. By 2:38, helicopters circled overhead. Sirens screamed across the interstate. Redstone's perimeter locked down, but Archie and Damir weren't running for fences. They reached the laundry bay, where a contractor's van idled in shadow. The driver, thin, nervous, reeking of sweat, flinched when they appeared. "You're late," he stammered. Archie smoothed his hair. "We are precisely on time." Damir shoved him toward the wheel. "Drive." The van rolled out into darkness. Behind them, Redstone burned with alarms and spotlights. At 2:55 a.m., Detective Grace Cade awoke to her phone buzzing. She sat upright in a small apartment cluttered with case files and coffee cups. Caller ID, Central Dispatch. She already knew. Redstone, she said before the operator could speak. The voice on the other end was tight. 2 missing. Gromov and Hagiev. Grace reached for her badge on the nightstand, her throat dry. God help us. And somewhere out on the highway, Archie Gromov smiled at the road ahead. Pawn to King 4, he whispered. Chapter 2. Tracks on wet asphalt. Rain blurred the city, coating it in silver reflections. Grace Cade's unmarked sedan sliced through slick streets, wipers thrashing. The radio filled with chatter, confusion, guesses, false leads. She filtered it all down to patterns, probabilities. A tip from a state trooper led her toward Harbor Avenue. An unmarked laundry van had slipped out of Redstone's service road minutes after the explosion. Grace found it abandoned near Dock 16. The driver slumped over the wheel, groaning, his face bruised and bloody. Grace hauled him upright, checked his pulse, whispered, "You're lucky. They needed you alive." In the glove box she found a paper map. Dock 16 was circled. On the floorboard lay a bread pawn, flattened and brittle. Grace sealed it in evidence. Of course, she muttered. Blue lights appeared down the road. She waved the uniforms back. No sirens near Dock 16. Quiet. If he hears you, hell move. Then another car pulled up. Journalist Mia Rivera stepped out, drenched in rain, clutching her camera bag. This isn't your party, Grace snapped. Someone invited me, Mia said. The van had a police escort cruiser behind it until the interstate. Then it peeled off. Source says ordered to stand down. Grace's jaw clenched. Cole, stay 2 blocks back, Grace said finally. If you film, blur my people. You'll get your story, but not their faces. Mia nodded once. Chapter 3. The first ultimatum. At 3:10 a.m., Archie and Damia walked calmly into St. Helena's Community Hospital. 2 orderlies were tied to chairs. A guard lay unconscious. Phones, Archie said softly. All of them. When a nurse hesitated, Damia fired into the ceiling. Dust fell like snow. Silence followed. Archie moved through the corridors, noting exits and blind spots. He paused at a side door and smiled. Always planning Act 2. Grace's phone buzzed. She answered. Detective, Archie said warmly. Punctual as ever. You're wasting time, Grace said. Release them and we talk. Leniency bores me. I require transportation. Armored. Discreet. And Dr. Emma Chen will ride with us. Grace muted the line. He's anchoring us with the van. He wants escalation. Leo Hunt, the young negotiator, leaned toward the mic. This is Officer Hunt. I'm here to listen. Archie chuckled. Do you play chess? Not well. Good. Keep me entertained, or a pawn falls. Grace scribbled in her notebook. Act 2 equals roofs. Chapter 4. Echo City. By sunrise, Echo City convulsed. Screens lit up with the hospital siege. Traffic froze. Commissioner Cowell stood before cameras, jaw square. We will not negotiate with terrorists. Grace watched, knowing he lied. Cowell had already negotiated years ago, with silence and donations. At noon, Union Media Center went black. Archie appeared live, calm under studio lights. Good afternoon, citizens. You've heard lies. At 6 p.m., a helicopter lands on St. Helena's roof. Refuse, and order collapses. The feed cut to a countdown. Grace slammed her hand on the table. He's staging Act 3. Not escape. A spectacle. MIA searched Union archives. She found ledgers tracing money from Archie to Cole's foundation. Proof. She stuffed the flash drive into her pocket. A man in a baseball cap appeared. She stabbed him with a pen and ran. Back at command, Grace pointed to the map. He wants altitude. A lens. Sable Crown Hotel. Flat roof, massive billboard. That's his stage. Chapter 5. Damia's Code in Side Street. Helena's fear had settled like dust. The alarms had stopped, but silence was worse. Every footstep echoed down the corridor. Every cough carried like a confession. Damia walked the halls with his rifle low, boots squeaking on wet linoleum. Hostages huddled along walls, whispering prayers or sobbing quietly into sleeves. He told himself he was in control, but their eyes burned into him. Not just fear, judgment. He paused at a treatment room. Doctor. Emma Chen bent over a young nurse, carefully stitching a gash on the man's scalp. Her hands were steady, movements precise, her voice low and soothing. You don't even flinch, Damia said, leaning in the doorway. Emma didn't look up. I can't afford to. Fear keeps people in line, he said. Fear makes people reckless, she replied evenly. If you want control, let them believe they'll live. Her words cut sharper than a scalpel. Damia stared at her, throat tight, then turned away. He told himself she was wrong, but her calm clung to him. Meanwhile, Grace combed through Dock 9, following another lead. A van sat abandoned, its engine still warm. Inside, a duffel with water bottles and a slip of paper. On it, a neatly drawn night. Too neat. Too perfect. Another breadcrumb, she muttered. He's toying with us. At the hospital, Archie moved among the hostages like a director preparing a play. He spoke softly, touched a shoulder here, gave a nod there. They hated him, but they listened. Damia cornered him. We should be gone by now. Patience, Archie said smoothly. An unfinished performance is no performance at all. These aren't actors. They're people. Archie's eyes glinted. No. They're an audience. And without an audience, there is no story. At 2 p.m., Archie hijacked the media feed again. His voice filled screens across the city. At 6 o'clock, a helicopter lands on St. Helena's roof. Delay, and lives will be subtracted. This is arithmetic. Grace slammed her palm on the table. He doesn't want the bird. He wants the stage. Chapter 6. Airwaves taken hostage at exactly 4 p.m. Every television flickered. The city froze. Archie appeared framed by studio lights, his tone calm, almost professorial. Citizens of Echo. Your leaders promise safety. They tell you lies. Yet I speak to you from their own pulpit. At 6, a helicopter. Or you will learn what arithmetic costs. The screen switched to a countdown. 1 hour 59 minutes and 59 seconds. In the command van, negotiator Leo Hunt's headset buzzed. Archie's voice slid into his ear. Officer Hunt, tell me, what do you fear more? Failure or silence? I fear innocent people dying, Leo answered, voice steady despite his thundering chest. Archie chuckled. Earnest. Weak. Learn to lie beautifully, officer. It will keep you alive. At headquarters, Cole barked, no helicopter. Assault. Grace snapped. That's his trap. He wants your overreaction. You'll give him blood and spectacle. Meanwhile, MIA Rivera slipped into Union media archives. She dug through financial files, her fingers trembling as she uncovered ledgers, shell accounts, donations routed through Cole's foundation, signatures that linked back to Archie. Proof. Her breath caught. She copied files onto a flash drive, slid it into her pocket, then froze. A man in a baseball cap blocked the doorway. His eyes were cold, his hand near his waistband. "You should NT be here," he growled. MIA thrust her pen into his wrist and bolted, sprinting through a side exit. She didn't stop running until she was blocks away, clutching the drive like it was oxygen. Back at St. Helena's, Emma whispered to Damia, "You don't have to follow him into the fire." Damia shook his head. "I owe him everything." "You don't owe him your soul," Emma said quietly. Damia's chest ached. He didn't answer. Archie checked his watch. Almost time for the first pawn. Chapter 7. The Broken Shield. By 5:15, Cole snapped. His fist slammed the table. "Enough waiting. Breach the hospital." Grace stepped in front of him. "You'll kill them." That's exactly what he wants. Cole glared. "We cannot be humiliated." Armored vans rolled across the wet pavement. SWAT officers stormed the hospital. Explosives cracked the stairwell. Smoke rolled down corridors. Inside, Archie stood in the lobby, listening like a conductor awaiting his cue. "It's time," he said. Damia's jaw clenched. "You said, no blood unless necessary." "Now it is necessary," Archie whispered. SWAT hit chains on doors, stumbled through blinding smoke, tripped wires rigged with fire extinguishers. Hostages screamed. Shots fired blindly. Chaos consumed the halls. Within minutes, the breach collapsed. Officers staggered outside, coughing, dragging the wounded. The assault had failed. Damia glared at Archie. "This isn't escape. It's slaughter." Archie smiled faintly. "Every drop of panic feeds our power." At 5:45, Archie hijacked the broadcast again. He held up a photograph, a black case stamped with the police seal. "Something of mine sits in your archives," he said. "Deliver it with the helicopter, or the arithmetic continues." Grace froze. She knew that case. Evidence tied to Cole. The commissioner's face turned gray. He said nothing, but silence was enough. Chapter 8. The revelation. The hospital plunged into darkness. Red emergency lights flickered. Shadows stretched across the walls. Archie stood in the glow, arms out like a preacher. Now they see the world as it is, fragile, breakable. Damia's voice shook. "This isn't control. This is chaos." "Control is illusion," Archie replied. "Fear is the only truth." In Union Media, MIA copied the last of the files. Donations. Routing slips. Proof enough to burn Cole's empire. Her phone buzzed. "Careful. Some truths are fatal." The man in the cap appeared again. MIA bolted, the flash drive tight in her fist. In the command van, Archie's voice cut through the feed. "The box. The bird. Or drive. Chen dies." Cole said nothing. His silence was louder than alarms. Then MIA burst in, soaked and breathless, slamming the flash drive onto the table. "He funded you? Years of it. Here's the proof." The room froze. Cole's empire cracked. Back in the hospital lobby, Archie sat calmly, phone in hand, the camera trained on Emma Chen. "5 minutes," he said. "Your choice." Grace looked at her team. "We don't give him the case. We don't give him the helicopter. We turn his stage inside out." She circled Sable Crown Hotel on the map. Flat roof. Giant billboard. "He wants altitude and a lens. We choose it before he does." Chapter 9. Spiral. By nightfall, Echo City quivered like an over-tightened drum. Panic raced faster than truth. 911 lines flooded with false alarms. Bombs in backpacks, shooters in alleys, masked men on rooftops. Half lies, half shadows, all fear. Grace Cade studied the wall of maps in the command van. Pins and strings webbed across the city. He doesn't need bombs, she said. Fear multiplies itself. He wants altitude, a stage where everyone can look up at him. Her finger stabbed the map. Sable Crown Hotel. Flat roof, a giant billboard staring down Main Street. A theater in the sky. On the street below, MIA Rivera sprinted through service alleys, livestream running in her palm. Her breath came sharp, her camera shaking. She ducked into the hotel's loading bay and jammed herself into the service elevator. The metal box rattled upward. She clutched the flash drive with one hand, whispering into the camera, "Proof is here. If I don't make it, remember Cole." The elevator doors slid open. Rain slapped her face like cold hands. She stepped onto the rooftop helipad. A helicopter squatted there, dark and empty. Bait! Behind her, a door banged open. The man in the baseball cap strode out, pistol raised low. "End of the line," he growled. MIA lifted her phone higher. "Thousands are watching," she said, breathless. "You shoot me, you confess with bullets." She turned and bolted onto the wet pad. Above, a police chopper roared into position. Its floodlights cut white scars through the rain. Across town, inside street. Helenus, Damia crouched near Emma as she comforted a boy with a bandaged leg. "You keep saying they'll save you," he said. "I say they'll save themselves," Emma replied. Her voice was steady, and it unsettled him more than any threat. Back at command, Cole sat pale, the weight of Maya's files crushing him. Officers looked at him with disgust, their faith unraveling. Grace ignored him. She pointed to the hotel. "That's his theater. We'll light it ourselves." On the roof of the Sable Crown, rain slashed sideways. A figure stepped into the glow. Archie Gromov. Suit soaked, smile bright, walking into the storm like it was applause.